Welcome to episode 122 of Outside the Circle, a podcast dedicated to new and upcoming country artists, musicians, and songwriters. Today's guest will be Krystal King. We'll get to her in a little bit, but first, I'm Ronnie, and here's Brian.
What's happening, man? And yeah, this was super fun. I really liked Krystal. That was a cool, long interview it's going to be, as most of you have probably seen on the thing. And yeah, we'll get to that. But on the other side, yeah, man, nothing really crazy to report here. For us New Jersey and bow hunters, our season is coming to an end very quickly. And so I'm trying to hit the woods as much as possible, trying to get that freezer full.
When is it officially over?
It would be February 17th. Would be, I think it's either that day or that weekend.
Oh, so like next weekend.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah. So, and the area that I hunt is a county park and deer management program, and they do burns, like controlled burns in the area. And of course, instead of waiting 2 weeks to do it, they decided to do it this week. So that kind of nixes my opportunity to go out this weekend, and hopefully they open it back up for one more weekend for the close, and then that's it.
Yeah, you would think that like the park management, whatever ranger, whatever term you want to use, would kind of have that more scheduled.
Yeah, you would think that, because also when I was out there last weekend, it was a complete swamp. Like there were, it was groundwater everywhere. So I'm like, maybe wait until it dries up a little bit to do it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the science behind it. So
yeah, I mean, just like scissors beats paper, you would think that water beats fire. So yeah. Yeah. Well, so speaking of fire, I think before we jump into this interview, I need to throw a little disclaimer out there. I got a little carried away in this interview regarding the song that we play and its meaning. So if you're listening, don't take offense to it. It was all in good fun. My house is still standing.
Yeah. It's not smoking yet. You're good.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, this is a super long one. Definitely the longest interview I believe we've done to date. And weirdly, or I guess fortunately, it didn't feel like that. It was such a great conversation with Krystal, and obviously we'll talk a little bit after, but yeah, I mean, we couldn't thank her enough for literally giving us all of her time. So yeah, I mean, I think if we're ready for it, let's jump on in. All right, everyone, we're here today with singer-songwriter Krystal King. Welcome to Outside the Circle, Krystal. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. We were saying before we hit record here that you kind of hit our radar about 2 years, a little over 2 years ago now. So it's about time. But I think as we'll get to it later, we well worth the wait, and we got some great music from you. So before we get all the way into that, let's we always like to start with the cliche. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how important music was in your household. Things like that.
Yeah, so I'm from Hickory, North Carolina. So if you're not familiar with Hickory, it's like an hour from Asheville if you're coming from Tennessee, so kind of the western North Carolina. And I was the only musical person in my household. I think everybody was in band in high school, but other than that, nobody sang or was a real music buff. So I just discovered Alan Jackson at a really young age, like 2 or 3, and I was like, this is what I want to listen to. And my parents were like, okay, she knows what she wants, so we'll let her take off with country music and let her do her thing. So, yeah, it's kind of always what I enjoyed listening to and always kind of what I wanted to be. So I moved to Nashville about 6 years ago, and I'm based out of there now and doing the whole singer-songwriter artist thing full time.
So I have to imagine, I guess it's stereotypical, but was country music always what you listened to in the household, or was it a bunch of other stuff from like your folks and everything?
Yeah, it was mostly country. My parents actually kind of let me control the dial for the most part. And my mom really liked like Kiss and Blondie, Joan Jett. We wore out the like "Oh Mickey, You're So Fine" CD. So she liked kind of her 80s. And my dad liked some like just oldies, old country, Elvis, things like that. But my mom was probably the more intensive music lover. But yeah, they pretty much just let me control the dial. They were just glad I wasn't listening to like rap and pop.
Yeah. What was the Alan Jackson song that keyed you in?
I think it was Little Bitty.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think that was it. Just, a cute, cheesy song, but that was sort of the hook that got me.
Yeah. And at a young age, that's an easy one to just kind of be like, those aren't even real words. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was just a fun one to sing. For sure. My parents were actually surprised. Like the first time I sang in public, they kind of dared me to come up to like a DJ. He was just kind of doing like background music in a restaurant, and they dared me to go up and ask him if I could sing a song. And I did Shania Twain, "You're Still the One." And they think that was the first time that my parents were like, oh, like, she says she wants to be a country music singer, but every kid says they want to be like a princess or a singer or something. So that was the first time they were like, oh, like maybe there's something to this. Like, she actually knows all the words and she's singing the notes.
That's, I think as you were saying that, I was thinking back to what I would say I wanted to be as a child. And, I don't think I would be able to go to space or be a fire truck. So it's it's great that you kind of knew right from the beginning.
A rare thing, but yeah, definitely knew. And, I think in college and stuff, I sort of fought it a little bit. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how to get started. Like, how do you become a country music singer? There's no, rule book for that. And I was book smart, and I liked school. So I went to school and was, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And eventually I had to just stop fighting it and jump in.
Yeah, that's smart, because I think like a lot of musicians in the early stages of like the craft go hardcore right into the music, right? And then it's later on in their career or even in their life that they're like, maybe I should learn other shit, like, because this is I hate to say like having a backup plan, but like, you shouldn't have a backup plan if that's like what your life is meant to be. But I think it's smart because, like you said, you were already into school. I was a horrible student and like an okay musician, and now I find myself where, I play guitar and sing, but I'm diving into like the whole academic side and like learning new stuff. And I'm like, man, where was this drive when I was 18 or 16, or even into college?
Well, I still would never practice. I still was a terrible student as far as like practicing goes. But I mean, school was definitely good in some regards. Like, as far as being in the music industry, it definitely is like a business. I couldn't do this if I just sang and songwrite. Like if I didn't do anything marketing or business related, I would fall flat on my face. So you quickly learn you kind of have to have those background skills. And, my major helped me to get a job, which helped me to move to Nashville because my parents, moving even just a state away is expensive, especially right out of college. And my parents couldn't fund that. They were supportive, but they were like, well, you got to figure out how to make it happen. So yeah, definitely was good. I also dabbled in radio in school and didn't know that would come back around, but now I'm DJing part-time. So like, just cool things that school did help out, even if I'm not necessarily doing what I went to school for.
Right, but it's keeping you in the world, right? Like in that world of music or even around it. I mean, the same reason I went to, audio engineering school was, I didn't know if I had the skills or even like the chops to be a professional musician. But in my head too, I was like, if it ever comes a time that I'm in a studio, I always wanted to know what they were doing. Like instead of just being completely blinded or even, not caring about what was happening, I dove so hard into the audio engineering side of it. And now that's where I make my living, which is really great for me because it allows us to do this podcast and, make Ronnie sound halfway decent and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I need all that help. Yeah. So you were talking about school. So I want to, normally my follow-up question to all of that is usually about when it was that you knew that like music was going to be the thing you were going to focus on. But I kind of want to start with school. So you studied music therapy. So you were still in music, around music, kind of like what you guys were just saying. One, I'm kind of interested to hear like what that even is, like I guess in the grand scheme of being a psychiatrist, what would that be considered?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the realm of like counseling, so more of like a licensed therapist sort of deal, but instead of it being like talk therapy, music's my tool. So maybe it's songwriting, maybe drumming, maybe it's like them sharing songs that express what they're feeling. Sorry, you hear my dog in the background. And using music as the forefront for that. So I studied music therapy just because even though I wanted to be a country singer, I was like, okay, what do I want to major in? And music therapy felt like something that combined like my love of music and my love of people. It was a concrete, hireable thing. And so that was sort of what I did. I was between that and music business for a long time. But, at the time I felt like business meant sitting behind a desk a lot. And I was like, I'm not built for a desk job. Or it meant recording. And I realized that I'm not tech savvy.
That's
so music
cool.
therapy kind of fell into that. Okay, I like to talk, so I can talk to people for sure.
I like that. I mean, there was this video, I don't know, this is going back maybe 10 years about this guy bringing in music to like a I don't know, like almost I'm going to say retirement home, but it was more than that, almost like a living for the older people there, and that they had like Alzheimer's and stuff like that. Some of them could barely even move, and they threw ear pods onto him, and he like on an iPod and just started playing music of their time. And these people, just the way they opened up and everything, it was like, this one woman was basically like just completely locked up and everything. And she starts clapping and going right into it, and like even thinking about it, it like gets you emotional because it was so cool to see how music alone did it. They did nothing else but just put iPods in and allowed them to open up. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I did some work in college during my internship with a lady who had a stroke. And it's, music therapy seems kind of like new and out there, but even in like speech language pathology, sometimes they use music. Like there's a process that they use that music therapists also use called melodic intonation therapy. Mm-hmm. And it's basically this process that can help like people who've had a stroke regain language, because the way music is processed on both sides of the brain. So like if they sing a song, they can almost like sing it before they can say it or speak it. So sometimes it helps like cue up words, or in melodic intonation therapy, like you would say like, I want food, like something simple. Right. And then that helps them to get to where they can actually say like, I want food, because that melody somehow translates in their brain easier than the speech does.
Right.
So,
I mean, we always talk about how music is its own language, and I guess it's, because of that exact thing. I've also seen too, I don't know, you're definitely more, knowledgeable about this. People that have like a stutter, like a hard stutter, when they sing, it's gone. Like they don't stutter at all. So I always thought that was a cool kind of, work. How that ends up. Like I said, you're more knowledgeable about that. And for me, I always just thought like amazing how, just talking, they, they're nervous and they stutter and everything. But the minute there's a beat or there's, music behind it, they sing so beautifully. And I forget the country singer. It's slipping my mind now. But no, that's really cool. I could dive into this for a while.
Yes, yes, for sure. It's cool. I mean, I worked more in like the psychiatric side or in medical.
Mhm.
So doing a lot of like in medical side, it was a lot of like pain management and
Mhm.
anxiety management. And then in the psychiatric, it's a little bit more like teaching how to like use your free time and how to express your emotions in a healthy way. But there's so many different uses for it. But
Yeah.
a lot of the neurologic stuff was really cool. You know, seeing how it's works with like Alzheimer's and strokes and Parkinson's
Mhm.
and all of that's really cool.
Yeah, the human body is crazy how we could just do things and yeah. So yeah, you do all this helping of other people, and you know, like you said, you like to be around other people and whatnot. So what was kind of that transition to like, okay, this is cool, but I need to be playing music? Like,
Yeah, so I was living in Charlotte at the time, and I was working for a medical facility, and I did love it, and like sometimes I miss that, but I just caught myself like trying to do some songwriting afterwards, and just having a hard time finding a community of songwriters or musicians that played, especially country music.
Mhm.
It just wasn't really existent in that area, and I did join like the National Songwriter Association chapter in Charlotte. And then I think that kind of just spurred me like thinking about it more and more and being like, you know, I love this job, but still at the end of the day, like something feels like it's kind of missing. And I feel like if I don't at least go and try, that I might regret it later. So me and my husband, or he was my boyfriend, we got engaged and we were long distance. And either I had to move to him or he had to move to me. So I was like, hey, Yenna, just move to Nashville. We'll just both leave.
yeah. You know, sometimes that I had a somewhat similar situation. I'm born and raised in New Jersey, and um, she was in New Jersey at the time, but from Wisconsin, and she
Okay.
wanted to move back to Wisconsin. I wanted to stay in New Jersey. We moved to Pittsburgh. So
Here you
yeah.
go.
So sometimes that's, you know, you just need to up and just totally be
Right.
with
And
each other.
we were both from Hickory, but we did do that with religion. He was Baptist and I was Lutheran, so now we're Methodist.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so you mentioned songwriting a little bit there. So we always like to kind of dive into that and, you know, kind of get your processes on stuff like that. Especially I noticed in your bio on your website that you claim songwriting is one of your biggest passions. So you know, what is it about songwriting? What's your process look like? Like what makes that so enticing to you?
Yeah, I think I really love like telling stories. I've always liked, you know, words. I've always liked English and reading. And so I think for me, it was just fun to create characters and imagery and wordplay. So I think that was the biggest thing. But also, whenever I was singing, I just realized I'm kind of one of those artists that like, I love, I don't think I would be happy with just songwriting, but I also wouldn't be happy with just singing. Like for me, it's kind of the combination of the two that makes it so special. Like I feel most at home whenever I'm singing stuff I wrote and then I see the audience kind of engaging or connecting in that. And I think that's just it's just means that they're relating to the things you're saying. And so whether it's my own life experiences or me like stepping into to other shoes or storylines, I just like to write relatable things in general.
Yeah, so and you mentioned before we jumped on too that you had a co-write this morning, this afternoon. Do you find how do I want to word this? So you said that you like when you're able to play your stuff and you know
Mhm.
kind of put yourself out there. Um, how does that kind of translate in a room of like co-writing and you know like I don't know where I'm trying to go with like do you
Yeah.
go in the room and be like this song's for me, let's do it?
No, not always. Like sometimes I bring an idea and it is an idea that I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel passionate about this and I want this song. Or sometimes they'll bring in an idea that they're working on a project and they want to see if they can come up with something for that. But a lot of times, like I think we'll just bring in ideas, and it's the goal is just to write a good song, like a song that we're both happy with. And like at the end of the day, if honestly we're fighting over who is going to cut it, then that's a good song. Like that's a good sign. And that's the cool thing too. Like I enjoy writing stuff for other people because just writing for yourself can sometimes be limiting because, especially with marketing, you have to be on brand or quote unquote on brand. And so, me singing like my cheating song and house fire song and then turning around and being like, oh, here's this like Taylor Swift love story, would feel a little, a little off brand, but it still kind of could be fun to write those styles of things or to step into other styles. Like I'm not super poppy, but sometimes it can be fun to write that. So I definitely enjoy like writing for other people, or writing things that can be pitched. And I would rather see it go out into the world than sit in a file on my computer. So just kind of whatever's best for the song.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, maybe I can ask you a question too. Excuse me. We talk about co-writing so much here. So when you co-write something, how do you guys decide who's going to be the one to cut it?
Again, it's usually just whoever is like feels the most drawn to the song, and you usually just ask your co-writer if that's okay.
Yeah.
And 95% of the time, I feel like there is one person who's feels more attached to a song, or feels like it's more them. I did have one song, Jesus in Jail, that actually me and my friend Taylor Hughes both cut. So she's already released it, and it's on my album, but we kind of just like talked about it. And I was like, you know what? Your voice sounds really cool on this. And honestly, like at the end of the day, after we recorded it and all was said and done, I was like, I think I actually like your version better than mine, which is fine. Like her voice just lent itself to that. And sometimes you don't know it until you get into the studio and do it. And our versions are completely different too. Like it's somewhere between Jesus and Jill. Hers kind of has this more like a rock Saturday night edge, where mine kind of has more of this, like, we're going to do some B3 organ and have some church harmonies in it. So, we went about it in different ways, and we just I was like, actually, there's this other song that we wrote together that I kind of want. So you know what? You take Jesus in Jail, and I'll still release this one, but I just won't I'll just put it out with the album, and it'll just be kind of extra fluff for that. So yeah, it just depends. But most of the time, I feel like there's just somebody in the room that just really resonates with the song, and they speak up and. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like an unwritten rule kind of thing.
Yeah. Like I've never had an issue with that. Usually I ask and they say yes, or they ask me and I'm like, of course. Like, and sometimes it's timing too. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, I've already recorded these 7 songs and it's going to take me a while to get something else out. So if you want to cut something now, like, go for it. Yeah. Like if I want to cut it later on the road, like, we'll deal with that then. So sometimes it's a matter of timing too.
Yeah, that's good. And, like, as you said, the end game is to get this thing cut no matter who does it. So it's not just sitting on a pad of paper in a computer somewhere written down. So the end goal is, for both or all the songwriters is to just get that thing out to the world and not have it sit there and become stale. So yeah, that's cool.
Exactly. And I wish I had the money to record and release all of my songs, but it's just not a possibility. It's definitely more expensive than people realize.
Yeah, there's definitely. So going back to the school stuff, I took music business courses and there's a lot of things that I feel like and I'm gonna put this in quotes, the average listener doesn't really know the things that go into it. So I wanted to kind of go back a second and touch on, how you said you're open to writing different styles and especially with different people, and that all of those, I feel like that's only going to keep bettering you in your craft, right? You're growing by doing all these other things, and something you might not have thought to do that you learned in a pop session is very different than
Right.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's very important that you're not just like the song sitting and getting stale. Neither are you. You're constantly putting yourself in those situations that get you better and make you grow.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like some, like these days, no genres are kind of, there's very thin lines between genres, if any, nowadays. And so I think to stay ahead of the curve, like mixing genres is kind of what's popular these days. So to get the most of an audience, sometimes you do have to do that. I always want to stay true to myself and stay true to my sound. And country music will always be my first love. But if I need to add a little bit of rock into a song or add a little bit of pop into a song, like I think that just gives you a wider audience.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, genres, even just when we were kids and to our parents' music, you were either a rock head, a hair band fan, or a country fan. There was never anything that like people swung back and forth and went to those. And now, like you said, there's rock and guitars on top of, fiddles and banjos and everything else. It's all just stacked in together. And
right.
To your point, I mean, like we talk about this quite often, how, my playlist is everything. Like I am not keyholed into anything. I mean, I have my favorites, and, we say that often enough too, that, I'm a traditional country guy to the bone. So, but man, when I'm working out, it's hard to listen to Vince Gill, and try to get any type of workout in. So,
right. And I think about like whenever I was little, Shania Twain was big on the scene. Mm-hmm. And I remember, at my age as a little girl, she was country, especially, like that was her newer stuff. Whenever it was like, whose bed have your boots been under? It was still very fiddle and country production, but kind of more pop-ish melodies. But at my age, I was like, this is country, because it fit kind of that 90s country pocket. But I remember my dad being like, this isn't country, this is pop. And, I still to this day, like, compared to like Hardy, Shania Twain's so country. Yeah. So it's just interesting how that shifts constantly. What is considered country or what is considered a certain genre.
Yeah. On the last recording, Ronnie made it a point to call out my trigger point, and that is that like, in the 80s or whatever, 70s country wasn't really that. And could you imagine 90s country to even earlier than that? 90s country was nowhere near that. And now if you sit there and play, like I said, like a Montgomery Gentry song or even like a John Michael Montgomery song to today's country, everybody's like, I can't listen to that old style country. It's like, it was the 90s. Like, that is the king of country music.
Yeah. And if you played them to Hank Williams Sr., he would be like, what is this trash?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So like that thought of like, this ain't country is like, man, people have been saying that forever. Like, just get over it.
Yeah. And not to mention that now, we talk about the crossover or the thin line between genres, but now everybody's putting out something. I think, who is it? Billie Eilish is putting out a country album now, apparently. Like,
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, like it's just put out the music you want to put out and enjoy it. Like,
exactly. And I
genre thing.
The only reservation I have in any of that, like I agree, I'm like, put out the music you want to put out. So I think the only place it gets kind of weird is when it comes to like awards or radio play, because I'm all about sharing the genre, but I do just want to make sure that like a song that's a little bit more hip hop isn't taking all the room on radio, and like an actual country song doesn't get to be played because of that.
I'm with you there. I'm 100% with you there, because in the same breath that I'll say that I listen to everything, I am one of the first people that will be like, that's not a country song. That is a good song, but it is not a country song. And so for that to win best country song or best whatever, it doesn't make sense. What was the song there that Billy Ray Cyrus was on, and what's his name?
Old Town Road.
That's
Old
it.
Town Road.
Not a country song, folks. It is sang with a southern accent, but it is not a country song.
It mentions a horse.
Yeah. So again, like it's a cool song and it gets you pumped up and it's a fun song, but that is a pop song to the fullest.
Oh, right. And it gets confusing too, because then like those songs that fall in between, where do you put them? Like how can they get awards or be recognized without taking away from stuff that fits that genre a little better?
And you could swing even to the other side where like the Americana folk world, isn't getting the recognition because maybe it's too country, quote unquote, for the radio and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a confusing world for sure for country music. And I'm a fan of that Americana sound. I mean, the breakthrough artist of that is Tyler Childers, right? He came out with that Appalachian sound, and it didn't come out with it, but he made it super super popular, and now everybody's into it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so since we're talking about good music and true to yourself and true to your sound and all that good stuff, this might be a good time to take our break and put the song on we're going to play for you. So why don't you go ahead and introduce the song, and then we'll talk about it when we come back.
Yeah, well, thanks for dealing with our tangent there. This song is called House Fire, and it is part of my upcoming album, and it was just released January 26th, so it's available on all streaming platforms.
I could say that I'm lonely, could say that I'm bored, but on the wrinkles, press the collar and just put it in the drawer. I could say that I'm restless, or that I'm not in love, so I do my best to pick up the mess and sweep it all under the rug. Call it good enough. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. I ain't sick, but I got pills. Up till now, I haven't used them, but maybe someday I will. Don't drink, but
All right, so let's talk about Housefire. First and foremost, what was the inspiration behind that song and ultimately putting it out as the second single off the album?
So I kind of knew that one was special as soon as we wrote it. So I had plans to release it, and was just hoping that the production wound up meeting my idea and my quality for releasing. And but I brought that one to my friend Stephanie Joyce, and when I brought it to her, I didn't really have like a full-fledged idea. I just kind of had the line, I don't smoke but I got a lighter. And since we wrote that, I feel like I've heard that in so many songs, but at the time I'd not heard that before, and I was like, this is cool. I think the song should be something about fire, but I don't know what. And she happened to have the title Housefire in her like notes, and she was like, I had this idea of like this woman who is just like unhappy with life and kind of just wants to burn the house down. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And at first it started off like supposed to be very metaphorical, but by the end, I'm pretty sure she burns the house down. But it's up for interpretation, like any good song. Yeah. But yeah, I think at the time I didn't have like a specific thing that was inspiring the song, but I think in hindsight, I was working. So when I moved to Nashville, I was still working as a music therapist. So I started out full-time, part-time, and I'm still technically employed. I just have to work like 2 days a month to stay on payroll. And at the time I was working pretty often. And so it wasn't anybody's story in particular, but I did speak with a lot of people who were just, struggling with life. And so I think in a way that song was kind of me taking some of those emotions and those feelings that they'd kind of put on me and putting that into a song. It was sort of my way of like empathizing with them, and trying to feel what they were feeling. So yeah, it turned out to be a really cool song. And I think it meant more to me than I realized in the process.
Yeah, this is a cool one.
Wait, Brian, I have to cut you off real quick. So you're going to do your thing for a second, but so going back to the music therapy thing, is there like HIPAA violations in songwriting?
No. Like I said, it was not anybody's story. Right. Nobody actually told me they wanted to burn the house down. That was never something that was talked about. And it was no specific person or specific story. Yeah. And as long as I don't use the name, I'm just kidding. There was nobody in particular, so we're safe there.
Yeah. And no pun intended, but there's a lot of fuel in those therapy sessions to definitely bring to songwriting.
There's definitely some fuel.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Brian, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That was so funny to me. I was just thinking of somebody suing a songwriter over that. Man, no, this is a really cool song. It's when I first listened to it, my first pass through, it was like, kind of heady, like, all right, let me think about how this is going to work out. And then, as the song, progressed, I was like, this is a badass song. I mean, it's rock and roll. My favorite thing, I'm going to talk about production side of it. I'm an acoustic guitar player, so anytime that there's an acoustic driven song, I fall fully in love with it. And then I love the contrast of like, kind of when it all hits the fan and then that electric guitar just hammers in and it's so heavy and dirty sounding. It kind of just like re-grabs you, like, listen, that type of thing. And it's just a cool song. It's produced so well. I mean, you sang the hell out of it. So yeah, this is awesome.
Well, thank you so much. That was definitely a fun one to produce, and we were, it kind of gradually came to life. We had different elements that came in at different times. That lead guitar was actually, I think, the last thing that got added. But yeah, when we first recorded it, the drummer played kind of the whole time, and it was kind of upbeat almost. It was kind of the way it was at the end, but the whole time. Yeah. And so I just remember being in the studio and being like, because I remember somebody saying like, this is cool. It's like sad lyrics, but upbeat music. And I was like, crap, it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be sad. So then we started like taking things out and we were like, all right, let's strip down this whole intro. And yeah, the acoustic guitar player, Mike, is just, simple and tasteful. And so I think it just came together really well. One of my favorite parts was the steel guitar part, which is the like high part at the beginning, the da 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 da. And I think when we heard that, we were like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. It's like haunting and beautiful, but in this like sad way. So yeah, it was definitely a cool song. And I think it can be up to interpretation. Like if you need it to just be a sad song, it can be. My mom was also talking about how like for her, it was like more of an empowering thing of being like, okay, I'm going to break out of this like place of being stuck and hopeless. And I'm going to like, we're going to burn it down and start fresh.
That's how I took it too. It's almost like a redemption thing. Like, whatever is bothering me, we're going to just burn it and then we're going to move on type of thing. Like that is, and like you said, I mean, that's what makes a good song is that every single person has a different interpretation of the lyrics and the music. Yeah. Badass song. This is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I always like to focus on the lyric side, that poetic Taylor Swift side of me. But kind of the I feel like I took it in that same like the redemption side of it, but like literal, like not to totally change the mood of the whole thing, but the house that I'm in is currently going through a divorce, so trying to figure out this house, and I kind of just want to burn it down. So
hey everyone, remember that part at the very beginning of the episode where Ronnie said it was just a joke? This is the joke. Now back to the interview.
Yeah, to take it out because I don't need the lawyers finding that one. But but yeah, I mean, I always, first and foremost, it's my first listen through is always about the words, and then kind of going back and putting the whole picture together. And yeah, I mean, I could only really piggyback Brian. This is such a fantastic song, and to be the second single off the album, kind of, which we'll get to in a second, but it makes that rest of the album so like wanted. So before we move on to the album, though, we were talking about music video. So you're done with the video. You got some dates of that it's going to start coming out here. So tell us a little bit about the video.
Yes, I'm finalizing the deal, but we're going to be premiering it on Heartland Country Channel. That'll be on December. What am I talking about? February 16th. So I think they were looking at doing it at 2 p.m. Central and then again at 5:30. So they'll be doing kind of the world premiere. It'll be online there. And then we'll be figuring out when it's going to come to you on like YouTube and all platforms. But it was a really cool video. We kept it pretty simple, but it's really beautiful. It was done by Dylan Reeves. And there's a cool house in Nashville where the lady's like, she's a costume designer, but she, I think just for fun, likes to do a lot of interior decorating in her house. And they live there, which I did not know. But they basically just have every room as like this different theme, all kind of vintage. And she just redecorates them every couple of years and people come and do photo shoots there. So it was just a cool space.
Oh, that's brilliant. Ronnie, that's a brilliant idea.
So instead of burning the house down, I just need to redecorate.
Yes. There you go. There you go. Yes. I did not tell you to burn the house down. Do not try this on. This does not reflect the views of Krystal King. You need to like the disclaimer. We're going to keep that metaphorical.
Yes.
Is this your first music video that's going to be premiered?
Actually, my second music video. My first one was for a song called Slow Love that I think released in 2020. And that was my first music video. We had no idea what we were doing. and it was kind of a friend who did it. He did a great job. He had a background in film, but that was his first music video. And since it was 2020, it was like me and my husband in the video, and me and him were like terrible actors, but the video turned out really good. We were super proud of it. That was Scott Clark, and he's done a couple other he's done a few like performance videos for me. I did some cover songs prior to my last release that he recorded. But yeah, he wasn't able to do this one, unfortunately, but Dylan did a really good job, and definitely felt a little bit more comfortable behind the camera. But you'll probably see some awkward bloopers later.
Yeah.
Especially the moment when we thought we were going to catch her cat on fire. We lit like 48 candles, and they're like all in the living room, and suddenly the cat decides to come in, and he's walking in between all the candles, like flicking his tail and like sniffing them, and we're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, please go away, please go away.
Yeah, because you don't want to spook him, because if you try to like grab him, he's gonna run through the fire. So,
Oh my gosh, we're about to catch her cat on fire.
So we don't really ever talk too much about the video and that visual side so much on here, but so kind of what's that process look like in terms of getting to Heartland and even CMT and like all those networks? Like, is it kind of just pitching and hoping for the best? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah, I'm still kind of new to that, since this is actually, it's only a second music video, and it's really the first one that I've actually pitched. So I'm still kind of learning as I go, but pretty much, yeah, you find some contacts and you send it to them and hope for the best. And I'm sure there's some sort of formula that they have as far as, I'm sure it's the quality of the song and the video, but I'm sure it's also got something to do with their, if they need sad or upbeat songs or whatever their programming is, or how much room they have for independent artists. So, yeah, I'm not sure what that looks like, but luckily enough, Heartland was kind enough to want to premiere it. So we're excited about that.
Nice. Well, hopefully many more videos down the line that you become a natural at it. But
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Lots of fire, and I didn't have any like cool pyrotechnics or anything, but lots of like Zippo lighters and candles and wine and bourbon and all that stuff. So we had a good time, and just luckily we did the photo shoot in that house, and I'd found that online and felt like it fit the imagery I wanted. And after the photo shoot, I was like, all right, when we're going for this video, let's just like pretty much do the photo shoot over again. Let's just like do these same images in live action, and especially with a song like that too, because with it being such a heavy song, I had to kind of decide like, okay, if I go like storyline, we're gonna be getting deep. So we went kind of more of a just imagery up for interpretation thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I have more of a film background than I do music background, so I always enjoy talking shop about film and imagery and all that. But so we mentioned a couple times, so House Fire is the second release from Pretty Poison, the upcoming album. I guess between House Fire and Red Wine and White Lies was the first release from the album. So kind of between those two, and how has the response been so far, and what are you looking forward to with this album coming out?
Yeah, everybody has been super supportive. I personally think House Fire is my favorite, but both of those have had like a lot of good feedback, because I think it was kind of something for everybody. That was more like the sassy Miranda kind of in your face vibe, and then more of like a reflective, sad, but still kind of ballady song. So it kind of gave some diversity in there. And, that's something when I work on projects is like, I want them to fit the theme, but I also don't want every song to sound the same. Because sometimes we can be so caught up on like branding it that every song, while great, kind of has the same sound. So I was really intentional about trying to make sure it was diverse. And it's very different from what I've released before. I think everything else kind of had more of like this old school honky tonk sound. So this was like me trying to keep that country root, but modernize it some. And, also figuring it out. Like those first, 6 songs I released were honestly me just figuring out like, how does this whole thing work? Like, how do I record? How do I release? What am I doing? So this project was just really special to me because I think it was like the first project where I was like, okay, I semi understand how this works and we're going to go for it. But this one's extra special for me because we worked hard and we worked for like 2 years on this sucker. And half the time I understood how release and marketing and stuff worked more, but this was like I went about this project a different way. Like before I'd kind of hired a producer, it was like a 1-man guy who played all the instruments. And this time while I thought I would hire a producer, just money adds up and stuff. So I was using a student recording studio. And I just like hired a band. I picked out some friends that were musicians that I loved. And we practiced like twice and then we went in the studio and recorded. And there was like a professional engineer and like producer there, but he was there more for like the production side as far as like what mics to use and making sure that the tracks got laid down good. And then, so I got the raw tracks from that. And then it was sort of this process of like, okay, I have all these parts and tracks and like some of them work, some of them don't. And I need somebody to like mix it so I can hear it. And then we kind of picked and chose what we liked, what we didn't, and replaced stuff. And yeah, it took a long time. Next time I might just hire a producer, but it was a lot of fun. And I think in the end, like after seeing how hard we worked and like how like I feel like we came out with a really cool and unique sound. And so I was really just proud of that process. Just because we literally did everything ourselves. Like we wrote the songs, we chose the songs, edited them, produced it, make like everything. Obviously things were hired out, but it was just really cool how it came together.
Yeah, that unorthodox like method too. It speaks too of the caliber of song, right? Like, some really great songs are just recorded on 8 tracks, and that's they're amazing in that way. And when you have great songs, you can record them, to that, strict to the bone, using that kind of feel. So I think that that speaks to the caliber of music that you write and that you're going to produce, and ultimately we're all going to hear soon. And then, yeah, I like the idea of it's an expensive thing to create an album, and if you don't have the backing of whatever, either record contracts or any of that stuff, which is, a nightmare in itself, then yeah, when it's just you and you're coming up with things, why not use somebody? I mean, I was in school for audio engineering, and that's what we did. That's how we got good at, recording music. Was bands would come in and then we were taught on the spot. And then they would leave and we would hand them, the tracks and be like, here you go. Yeah. And then it was amazing. It was so cool, both for the artists, because basically they were getting a free album. And then we were all learning all the stuff on the other side. Super cool. I like that, using that to your advantage. And yeah, I can imagine the amount of stems that you were given. It was what they call them.
Oh yeah, a lot of stems. And because like the student mixes were not great, but we just took the stems and took them to I worked with about 2 different mixers. Jordan Turner did the last 2 songs and then Dr. Ford did the other ones, and like they just, they took it to the next level, but it was a lot of us sitting in a room and being like moving around parts and then having a lot of excess parts because we couldn't get everybody in the studio at one time. And so I don't know if the intention was to save money, but I think because I didn't have a producer or a full plan, I was kind of just throwing things at the wall and seeing what would stick. And so in a way I did spend some extra money because I backtracked a lot on some parts, but it was part of the process. And I think like, okay, now I know better and now I get it more and we'll figure out what we're doing on the next thing. But yeah, this was definitely like a fun album for me for sure.
And you learn so much about what it takes for like engineers and the production side of
Yeah.
it is like
I was like, oh yeah, I see why you charge so much money now. All right.
Yeah, no, Brian, you got the easy job, Brian. I don't. What I really love about that goes back to the songwriting side of that of you're only bettering your craft by being so hands-on, and that's that's amazing. And these first two songs, you really could tell you put the time and effort into these songs, and I can only imagine what the rest of the album is going to sound like. Well, hopefully not imagine because it'll be soon, but yeah. So I kind of want to jump off the songs in particular for a second. So you are currently on Sirius XM, Margaritaville, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Kind of tell us a little bit about that, and how it came to be, and ultimately when and where people could listen to you on there.
Yeah, so you can see the sunshiny bright Krystal there instead of the house fire depression Krystal. But I started touring in Florida about 2 years ago. Actually, you were talking about our mutual friend Kirsty Kraus. So she had invited me to go on tour with her after she broke up with like her fourth musician boyfriend. And she was like, I needed somebody to come with me. So I went and we just really clicked and started playing a bunch of shows together. And through that, we met the grand old Parrothead community. And so if you don't know, those are just like the mega Jimmy Buffett fans. And we just started doing some house concerts for them, started going to some of their festivals, and they were just like this whole community that I didn't know existed. Like I knew Parrotheads were Jimmy Buffett fans, but I didn't know that there was this whole like, they have Trop Rock Music Awards, they have Trop Rock radio stations, there's Trop Rock house concerts, there's they have festivals all over the US. Like it was just this wild open door, and we just realized that was an option for us, but also that they were like so welcoming, and they just like if they like you, like they're going to support you 100%. And they just were ultimately just like great people. And then, I started to enjoy, like, I always liked Jimmy Buffett. I always really liked his songs. I respect him as a songwriter, 100%. But I was kind of introduced to Jimmy more on the country side of things, like Alan Jackson and Kenny Chesney, and through his collaborations with all of them. But yeah, I kind of dove in more to his songwriting and just seeing how talented he was. And at one of the Parrothead events, I met a DJ on Radio Margaritaville, and I kind of just threw out to him. I was like, "Hey, I got some radio experience in the past. If you ever need anybody, let me know." And like didn't think twice about it, just said it on a whim. And next thing I know, he's like, actually, we're kind of in the need. Like, let's talk. So we talked, and he had me on as kind of like a guest DJ. They do this like Fruitcake on the Radio segment where they have fans pick like 4 of their favorite Jimmy songs and they talk about it. So he had me do that segment, and then next thing I know, he pitched it to the program director, and then she called me, and I had to like brush up my ancient radio resume, and and went in for like a couple like mock sessions and stuff. And she was like, actually, I think you're a great fit. Let's do this. So I do that twice a week on weekends. I'm on Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 2 Eastern time. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was fun to get back into that side of things. And it's been good like networking with the Parrotheads as well as like other radio world people. And yeah, it's been kind of fun to have something outside of like music directly to do. So that's been fun just experimenting with that.
Well, it's cool too. I mean, that group is, they feel that music so deeply too, you know, and it's got to be cool to be on the radio side of it and hear that connection between, you know, his music and then, you know, the love of it. So yeah, that's wicked.
Oh yeah,
Wicked
like
fun.
he's got those. I mean, he's got those Grateful Dead style cult
Yeah,
like
exactly.
followers. And but even more so is they, you know, his fans are also branching out to trying to just support more music that's in that vein, whether it's country or reggae or Americana, but just kind of about escapism and about, you know, living that kind of like present
Yeah.
lifestyle. So I think for them, it's more about that. So we also started writing some trop rock stuff. I haven't released any of that, but there'll be some trop rock in the future. I did write a beach murder song the other day because I was like, I don't know, these feel a little bright and sunny for me. I need I need something something to tie it together. So.
Yes. Yeah, having grown up on the Jersey Shore, I very much would enjoy a good beach murder song. So definitely get that out
like
there.
a coconut falling on his head, and you know,
Nice. So yeah, Sirius XM Radio Margaritaville. What'd you say? Saturday, Sundays, 10 to 2 Eastern. Yeah, Pretty Poison coming down the line here. I'm sure we'll get another song or two from it before it's all in its release. But
I change my mind constantly, but yeah, as of now, there's 2 more songs that I plan to put out. Actually, the next one is a murder song, but not at the beach.
nice.
Nice.
Well, yeah. So yeah, Krystal, this was a lot of fun. I guess lastly, if you want to let everyone know where they can find you online and all that good stuff, and yeah.
Well, I'm on, you know, iTunes, Spotify, all that, and also on all socials. But kind of my one-stop shop is my website, and you can pretty much find links to everything else there. And that's Krystal with a K, krystalkingmusic.com.
Awesome, Krystal. This has been so much fun. I love sitting here talking about all the nuanced stuff that we went on tangents with as Ronnie's eyes were spinning back. Yeah. But no, it's been awesome. I look forward to, you know, hearing more.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right, so that was our interview with Krystal King, and yeah, Brian, like we said, going into it, great long interview. Didn't feel like the hour or so that it actually was. Yeah, I mean, if House Fire, which we heard, and Red Wine and White Lies, which we'll play at the end, if either of those are indications of the rest of the Pretty Poison album that we're getting this year, and yeah, I can't wait for it. It's gonna be a good year for Krystal here.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I think that Pretty Poison album is going to be really cool. You know what I really liked about that entire conversation is like we went off on tangents a couple of times, and those tangents could have been like, you know, podcasts on their own. I mean, the whole music therapy thing is like, it's so cool to me. You know, I love the idea of using, you know, music as a tool, or, you know, a voice in that manner as like a medical thing. And I really like that. And then, you know, the idea of it, you know, being, you know, a language in itself. I mean, I had a conversation today at work about that. And so, you know, this has all just been kind of on my head like since we had this interview and everything. So it's been super cool. And yeah, Krystal was great. Long interview, but did not feel it. I mean, we got done and we're like, how long was that? Like, I couldn't believe it. You know, which is, you know, showing us, and, you know, that was just, she's just a great, you know, person, great artist. And yeah, definitely look forward to this album and the premiere of the music video, right?
Yes. So it is Friday, February 9th right now. So next Friday, February 16th, will be the premiere of the video for House Fire on Heartland. So make sure to go check that out. We also touched on her radio DJ side of her career there as well. So yeah, if you're around Saturday and Sunday mornings, I believe she said 12 to 2 or in that time frame, over on Sirius XM Radio Margaritaville, definitely give her a listen there. And yeah, no, it's yeah, even after the hour, I think in total we were on the call for about an hour and 45. So it was cool. And yeah, this is, I don't like to give favorites, but this is definitely up there for one of my favorite interviews so far, and just overall people and guests. And can't say enough good things about Krystal here.
Well, to wrap it up, we definitely want to thank Krystal for coming on Outside the Circle, and be sure to follow her on all of her social media, music listening platforms. She gave us her website for everyone to get forwarded to all that stuff. We'll leave you today with a track from Krystal King, Red Wine and White Lies.
It's 8:15. I guess he's coming home late. And if he can't call, then I can't bother saving him a plate. Third time this week, he must think that I'm naive. And I can't wait to hear what excuse he's gonna try to feed me. Pop the cork and pour me a glass. Lord knows this bottle ain't gonna last. Red wine and white lies, don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow when my glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one will drown that alibi. So I'm raising my cup and getting drunk tonight on red wine and white lies. Get midnight calls, hiding his phone. Well, I know full well that he ain't talking to his mom, working overtime, or out late drinking with the guys. But there's lipstick on his neck, that's a real nice guy. For every lie, I pour a glass or two. Another night of getting trashed on red wine and white lies. Don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow when my glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one will drown that alibi. So I'm raising my cup and getting drunk tonight on a red wine and white lies. They say it gets better with age, but tonight I ain't gonna let it go to waste. So pop the cork and tip it back. Baby, you can't kiss my glass. Red wine and white lies, don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow when my glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one will drown that alibi. So I'm raising my cup and getting drunk tonight. I'm raising my cup and getting drunk tonight.